this Venn diagram. I'm guessing that we need to go through it largely because it will be on the quiz today, and also because I think we only did one example last class period, okay? So when it says, what is the probability that a person chosen at random from those in the sample will be in the 31 to 45 category? Any thoughts there? Well, what would it be? Yeah, good. 89 divided by 207. By the way, for tickets today, I don't have tickets. I've already given out the 2,000 already. It's crazy that draw. So I don't have them. So what I did was I gave you a sticky note. Just be honest with me. Put your name on that sticky note, and from there, I'll give you tickets as I go. Okay? So Chris, you got 2. So keep that 2 there. All right. So we got 89 out of 207 is what we're looking at. Fantastic. Okay? The next one says, what is the probability that a person chosen at random from those in the sample whose incomes are over 50,000 will be in the 31 to 45 age category? I think we've got to be careful with this because it says the person chosen at random from those samples whose incomes are over 50,000. So, what are we focused in on, Lindsay?
So over 50,000 incomes, 35.
Good. We're not going outside of that because it already stated that this was given, right? So we would say then the probability would be the 35 over 96. So we would state over here, this is 35 over 96. Good. Give yourself 2. That's good. Sarah?
Do we have to do the P and then the whatever the bracket things? The P of A to C or whatever?
Yes, ma'am. So today, especially on the FRQ part, there will be one, specifically very similar to this, where you'll have to draw a Venn diagram, but then there's also something you have to solve. What I would do here is I would state whatever it would be. If I said probability of A is equal to 89 over 207, that's perfect, but also define what A is. So if I came over here, just identify A as over $50,000. Got me? And that way we know, okay, that's what we're focused on. Our second variable that we're focused on in this, at least through the questions, is those that are between 31 and 45 in terms of age. Does that make sense there? Okay, cool. Hey, let's do this. Just in a Venn diagram, knowing that these two are the variables, I wanted to identify what the Venn diagram is because, again, it is on the quiz, and I think it's the one area I just wanted to make sure we hit on before that, before the quiz there. Does anyone know what would be this? Well, let me backtrack. Are these two things mutually exclusive, yes or no? And then if someone answers that, help me with why.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Why?
Because you can be both at the same time.
Yes, because both are at the same time. Good. Chris, with the Venn diagram, do you remember what mutually exclusive events would look like with the Venn diagram here?
No.
That's fair. That's maybe a tough question. I said it kind of once. Alex, did you know?
It's 2 separate circles, not touching.
Yeah, so it's 2 separate, not overlap. Very good, okay? Not overlap. So right in the middle here, that's where both would occur. Good, give yourself 2, Alex. Gotcha. So does anyone know, just raise their hand here, what would the probability of this be in terms of fraction form?
0.
If it's mutually exclusive, you're right, Chris. Perfect. If it isn't mutually exclusive, it's where both occur, right? So we go over here and we say, where do both occur? And Jaden, you know?
I thought it was 35 over 76.
Yeah, so it actually would be 35 out of my total here. Because now we're not focused on one, we're just saying out of all of them, 35 out of 207 would be in the middle. Is everyone good on that? Okay, good.
Participants with incomes over 50,000. Like I thought the group we had was just people with 50,000.
Perfect. We're going to look at this later after the quiz. This is what we call a conditional statement. You don't need to know that for the quiz, but we'll get to it later on. What we've stated is what is the probability of a person being from 31 to 45 given that they've been 50,000, right? We're not using that for this part. We're just saying out of all 207, what is the probability both will occur? Because that's where it overlaps, right? Now, if this was 0, these would be mutually exclusive events. You got me, Lindsay?
So would the space outside of circles be those below 50,000 and not 31 to 45?
Bingo. Bingo.
So how would you do that?
Let's do this. Let's get the circles, and then it's easier, I think, to go outside. Does that make sense? So in the inside here, Brianna, what would this be? We said
50. So it would be
this is the 35 over 207, right? So right inside here, 35 over 207. You could put it in fraction form or proportion form. I don't care. Either one would be good. Now the outside, what would be the probability of getting A? This becomes a little bit tricky. What's the probability of A happening?
Would be 96 over 207.
Good, 96 out of 207. Now this is where you really kind of have to dial in, because this whole circle technically is 96 over 207, but what I want is just this crescent moon right here,
So you have to
right on the left side.
So there are 80. I mean, it would be 35 over 207. I mean 96 over 207.
Okay, it would be here. It would be 96 over 207, but what do we have to subtract?
35.
The one that's shared. Does that make sense? So 96 minus 35 would be, what was that, like 61 over 207? 61 over 207 would go right in here.
Okay,
Is
so
it just saying like out of all these like possible things we could have, how many are just 50,000?
Correct. Correct. So how do I get all of A if I looked at a Venn diagram? 61 plus 35, which would be 96 over 207.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So we're excluding what is shared. John Michael?
So if we wanted to get B, like just B and not the shared part, we would do 89 minus 35 over 207.
Yeah, so 89 is over here. I'm showing everyone, but you're right. 89 is over here. We have to subtract what's shared, which would end up being what we said, 54 over 207? So 54 over 207 would be over on this side. Am I making sense on that? Okay, so 54 is not all of B, it's just not what's shared with A. Perfect. Now, if it's mutually exclusive, you don't have to worry about it. But with this, then you just have to subtract the union that's in the middle here, we call it. Okay? So how do we get what's on the outside? By the way, on the outside, what would we say on the outside that this represents?
everything else.
Yeah, so could you just tell me, Brianna, like, compared to the variables, what do you mean by everything else? You're right.
It would be like 21. Like it just excluding. We try to calculate everything excluding the 31 through 45 age bracket, and then you would do anything below 50.
Perfect. Yeah, give yourself 2 on that. That's good. Really what we're saying is what is the probability, sorry for my markers, what is the probability of A complement and B complement? What is complement again? We're just reviewing right now.
What it is.
Yeah, what it's not, right? And that's exactly what we're looking at. What is not A and what is not B, that's the outside, okay? I'm sorry for the wetness out there. Okay, so how would we find that in the context of this? Lindsay?
Good question.
Shoot.
The and, is that how we do and?
This right here?
No,
No,
in the,
Yeah, good question. The overarching is and. The U is for. Does that make sense? So, I don't think I've said that. This is a ratchet marker. Sorry.
it's not great either.
Is it not? Oh, man, that's a little better. It's not as moist. All right, so this is or. And is that bad? I like moist markers. What's wrong with that? So and is over, and then or is like a U. Okay? Cool, cool. How do I get the outside just real fast? How would I do that?
subtract those from the two.
That's exactly right. Subtract these 3 from 207, and there you are. Okay?
And that's
Gotcha.
the P times AX.
Not A and not B. Meaning where these 2 things do not occur. Cool? Gotcha.
Do we have to write that equation?
You don't have to, but if you put and, you could just say what's the probability of it not being 50,000 and not being from 31 to 45. So you could write this in words if you want to.
So you would take 207, the total is 207, and then you subtract 35, 61.
Perfect. So that would be 96 Zero carried the 1. What is it, 150? So is that 57 out of 207? I think. I'm just doing that quickly. So 57 over 207 would go over here. Cool. Right in here. Awesome. Yeah.
Can we
Jamie.
get a calculator for this class?
You shouldn't. You could use it, but you don't have to.
Okay.
That sounded like a door creepy.
Alright. Alrighty. We're good on that? Alright, Mentimeter, let's go there, and then we're gonna go to one quick thing, and then we're gonna take this bad boy.
Do we have to write the formula? Can we like explain the formula?
You could explain the formula and be good.
So if I says like the probability of blah blah blah, and explain it without actually writing the formula, that's fine.
Yes, that'd be perfect. Cool. Hey, real quick, as we're looking at this, I know sometimes this can be maybe humorous for people and whatnot. I take this seriously. I like to just see where we're at. I see that the AP stats is low. Is that because of today's quiz? Or is there a lot of work? Just talk to me. I mean, we're just kind of having a conversation. Cool, Brianna?
I don't know, I think like you reviewing this and stuff kind of like makes it so that it's not as stressful.
It's kind of increasing a little bit as we're reviewing. My game plan today was especially for chapter 5. It's the hardest chapter. Remember I told you that? And so I get that there could be some anxiety on that. I'm pushing this quiz back towards the middle of this class period, largely because I think we need a little bit of review. So I apologize for not telling you that in advance. But hopefully that increases it a little bit. Is there anything else that just as we're feeling this, like where we're at with that being maybe a little bit lower? How's the homework load?
Not too much. Not terrible.
It's too much? Yeah? How so, Chris?
There's too many questions.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I agree with that.
It's just too time consuming.
Say that again?
It's just too, like, it takes way too much. Like, it's not even that there's too many questions because it's 10, but then it's like each
Yeah.
question takes like 10 minutes.
That is true. You have to write like a paragraph for each of them, but I mean,
I mean, it does help. It's good for the test.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. That's the biggest
I
thing.
do think the homework helps though, because we do like 2 from like reviewing, which is good because it's not going to go away, especially like at the end of the exam. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really know what else you can do.
Can we just do one?
I got you.
One longer rather than two. So I feel like, especially for the 5.2, I'm like, what are the FRQs
The super long one? Yeah, we could look into that for sure, especially as I'm looking at it there.
Maybe for the chapters that you think are a little bit easier, we can go a little easier on that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I appreciate you being honest, Chris. I saw some people shaking their head. What I would challenge you with is I have a hard time with this, to be honest. Last year, believe it or not, I don't know if you knew this or not, I actually do all of the homeworks that are there with you. And the reason why is I eliminate any questions that are unnecessary. So when I relate what I do with the test in terms of homework, you have to know that every homework question that I do, I try to make it to where I'm not wasting your time. So compared to last year, you probably are doing 75% of the questions they did last year. And so I'm eliminating a lot. You're not seeing that. But then I'm also different from last year. They had homework every day. You all have it, every twice a week or whatever that may be. I changed that because I realized there's a lot with the questions and stuff. But I will tell you that it may feel like a lot, especially if you wait till the last minute the night before to try to get that done. So if you, just as a challenge to you, maybe a help to you, I'll, on my end, do my best to make sure that maybe the FRQs, we do one really purposeful one. On your end, maybe just continue to, just as some advice, from a college perspective, preparing you for college, don't wait till that last minute. As you go, maybe take 3 or 4 a night. And by the time you do 3 or 4 problems a night, there you are. You're done with the homework and you're good to go. So we'll keep working through that. Again, I just wanted to have a conversation more than anything. But know that this also is an AP class, which means that it's just going to be more, just the reality of it. And so, but I'm going to try to help however I can that way. Okay, so take out your notes real quick. I know I've got also a playlist here. I know that some of you don't like maybe Christian music completely, and I get that. For me, 12 Days of Christmas, that's awesome. I'm going to try to create a class playlist of y'all's favorite songs, so let me know, and I'll get that. All right, so take out your notes. We're going to use the first part as an additional review to kind of go over this activity. So if you could, numbers 1 through 3 on the notes, just put a line underneath 3. After we're done with number 3, we're going to take the quiz, okay? So after number 3, we are taking the quiz. All right, here we go. This is really intriguing because last class period, the girls, every one of the girls preferred English over math, which was pretty interesting. This is completely different. So we're going to look at this. We're just going to identify. So in a two-way table, as we roll, could someone just kind of take it over and say, hey, coach, like this is how I would fill in this table using this information. How would I fill in this two-way table
So you
with
would
this
do
one?
female and then 2 for English.
Okay, yeah, so the females, we got 2 for English, and how many for math? 5, good. All right, males, how many English for males? 2? And how many for math? 3, good, yeah. Okay. All right, so then we go totals, right? We've got to total it. If they don't give it to us, we want to make sure we've got it. So we've got 7 and 5 here, 8 and 4, and what's my total here? 12, nice. So 12 is my grand total. That's the sample that I took, right? 12 different individuals. Awesome. All right, so let's do this. Sarah, what would go in the middle here? Sarah, what do you think would go in the middle there? I would say this, back up for me. We're talking about how many females like English, right? So in order to be in both, this is kind of where they coincide. Okay, this is a good point. If it was female and male, what would it look like?
2 circles. Well, technically, it would be 2 circles.
2 circles that what, Chris?
Don't touch.
Don't touch. Yeah, completely separate. Completely separate. Give yourself 2, Chris. So Sarah, what about females in English? What would go in the middle?
2.
2, yeah. So this is where both occur. So at this spot, this would be 2. If I was looking at this formula-wise, just so you can kind of see this, this is the probability of females and English, where F is females and E is
Why you
English.
put 2 in the middle?
Okay. Say that again, Chris.
Why you put 2 in the middle?
2 is where both occur. So this is where, if I was to say both occur, it would be that there. Cool. All right, let's keep going. That way we kind of identify this. So it really is 2 out of 12 if we're doing probability, right? But just so that we know like the total amounts, we'll put the 2 there, just so you can see it. How about over on this left side? Someone raise their hand and help me. What would go in the crescent moon on the left? Lindsay. 7.
Why? So sorry.
Remember, this whole thing is 7,
Yeah.
and therefore everything to the left is 5 plus 2, which would be 7 there. Good. Lindsay, give yourself 2. Very good. Sarah, I don't know if I told you to get 2, but get 2 because that was good on that last one. All right, English side, someone raise their hand and help me. What's on the right, Jaden?
2.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
You're talking about the crescent, right?
Wouldn't this be?
this over here, right?
Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, but
females
don't you
or
have to take
English?
2 it?
Because and English, then there wouldn't be anything.
Oh,
Yeah, so think of my total English.
It'd be 2.
No, it'd be 2. My fault. Did you say 2? Give yourself 2. My fault.
Give yourself 1.
I was tripping. On that one.
Why?
My fault. I was thinking male again. I was thinking on that.
2 males.
I'm good. Okay,
So they're the ones in the circle.
here we go. What about the outside? Bronwyn, do you know what would be on the outside of this? Like down here?
Wait, cause she,
Yeah, that's cool.
I know.
9.
Okay, 9's everything in here, right?
Then what is 12 minus
Good.
3?
There you go. Very good. Give yourself 2. Nicely done. This is 3 here. Okay, Brianna, I'll give you 2 if you can identify. What does 3 represent in the context of my problem?
Everything else. I don't know how to say it.
Okay, that's true.
So
Just
it'd be everything else besides female. So it'd be males that like math. Jaden.
You're exactly right. Males that like
math and then females that like math. Or it would
females
just be
that like
male-
math would be like the 5 over here.
Okay, so it would just be the males that like math and males that that's it.
That'd be it. Yeah, it's the complement of the two variables, right? Is everyone good with complement stuff? How we would write that and all that? Cool. Okay. So that's here. Let's keep going. We're going to go to numbers 2 and 3 here. So as we write it up at the top, I think we've already put that there. What is the probability? We're just going to throw it out there. If we randomly selected one person in this room, what is the probability that that individual would be a female? Just someone raise their hand. We'll just roll through these. John Michael?
7 out of 12.
Yeah, good. 7 out of 12. Good. Give yourself 2. If you answer one of these, just give yourself 2. What is the probability that it would not be a female? Or we could also write this as probability of the complement of my female there. Shane?
5 out of 12.
5 out of 12. Good. And remember, the complement formula is 1 minus the probability of female happening, right? Okay, so it's the kind of the opposite of that. So 5 out of 12 is correct. Good. Good. Give yourself 2, Shane. Probability of English, Alex?
So I have a question. Do you
Go
want
ahead.
these, like on the test, do you want these in decimal value or in fraction value?
A lot of times they want them in decimal value. I don't know if they'll count off for that, but I think a lot of times some of the fractions can be really big. Just change them to decimal form. I've not done that because sometimes when I'm doing this, it's easier to see that this adds up to 1. But technically, yeah, we should probably do that.
Do we need to simplify?
Say that
Do
again,
you need
Chris.
to simplify?
Yeah, that's a good question. You don't have to. Just put it in as a decimal. So on your calculator, if I were to do this, you could keep it as a fraction for today. But if you want to, you don't have to simplify. That's just not a big deal to me. Or you could just put it as a decimal here. Either one. That's a good question. Shane?
Because the last one, would it be 4? Because
Put it in a
females,
diagram.
because the 2 in English are 2 males, but females and English, there's only 2 males.
We're looking at those that aren't females, right?
So wouldn't it be 4?
Well, it would be, remember the complement, right? Probability of female complement is 1 minus the probability of just females, right?
Yeah.
So what is the probability of females? That's 7 out of 12. Common denominator tells me that we do 12 out of 12 over here, which is equal to 5 out of 12. And if I looked at this two-way table, we're not talking about English or math. We're just saying that out of this 7 out of 12, that's females. If you're not female, then you're male. And therefore, the not females would be 5 out of 12.
Yeah, but we have 9 in the Venn diagram, but there's only 7 males, or 7 females. And if we're only doing females, you can't. Is that making sense?
I'm trying to. Let me reiterate it to you just to make sure I'm good. Are you saying because there's in this diagram there's only 9?
Well, and we only have 7 females, but we counted the 2 males that like English. But if it's and, it'd be a female and they like English, right?
Correct.
So-
Yeah, we haven't done the and
So
yet.
wouldn't it be probability of female or English? Because we did the upside down N, that means and. Or the upside down U.
I don't know if we hit on that one yet, Shane. You're right. You're talking to me, right? We're just talking about these two, right?
Well, on the last one,
You wrote it.
like you wrote female and English.
Over here, right?
Yeah.
When I talked about this,
Yeah, on the formula right below that.
correct. That right there refers to what's on the inside.
So why did we count the 2 males that like English? In
That-
the English side.
This right here, the F and E, is everything that's highlighted
so
here.
it's only that middle part.
Correct. That's my fault. That's
Okay.
my bust. If we did
I
or,
thought we were talking about the whole thing.
yeah, it's just inside.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Everything on the outside here is just in English. You follow me on that? It's a great question. I'm glad I got that. I'm glad you asked me. It's good. All right, here we go. Let's keep rolling. We got 2 more things and we're going to be rolling. Probability of English is what?
4 out of 12.
Good. Probability of not English is, give yourself 2 on that, would be, Kristen, what would be not English, you think?
8.
8 out of 12. Nice. Give yourself 2, Kristen.
Are we supposed to simplify these?
You can. I told Chris it's not necessary. I'm going to keep it out of 12 because I want you to think in terms of my total out of 12 in here. Does that make sense?
Right.
Um,
Oh, and
but that's fine. It'd be good. Sarah, do you know how to do the female and English part?
Yes.
What would that be?
So it's not a 12 anymore.
2 out of 12. Good.
Because you're
Good. Give yourself 2.
Wait, can you go over? Yeah.
What I just did.
Wait, you just-
Remember on the Venn diagram we showed that what is the place where they intersect where both occur, right? The place where they both occur would be 2 out of 12 in the middle.
But it would be female and not English. I thought you would.
Makes sense.
Oh.
That was just female and English, right?
Yeah.
The next one is female and not English, right? What is the probability of being female but not English? We would say what, John Michael?
5 out of 12.
5 out of 12, right? That's this crescent moon on this left side.
So
Wait,
female
Coach Jay,
English
is the adding thing for only for the oars?
Yeah.
Just for the
Yeah.
oars.
Okay, that's what
just
I'm
not
doing.
female.
It's good.
So
We're just using the Venn diagram to answer these questions right now. Does that make sense? Other than number 3 we'll get to.
Female and not English.
Okay, so female and not English is 5 out of 12, right?
English and not female.
Alright, let's look at the next one. What about English and not female? So it's got to be over here. If I'm coming, I'm going English, but not female, right? So excluding, that'd be 2 out of 12, right? Alright, sorry, Bronwyn, I'm sorry about that. You did that with such enthusiasm, and then I just took it away. I'm so sorry. Alright, Bronwyn, you got the next one.
Why would that not be hard?
Not female and not English would be what?
English would be
3 out of 12.
Wait,
Good.
Coach Jay, can we go back to English and not female?
Yeah.
Why would that not be 5 out of 12?
Okay, remember that all of English is 5 out of 12, right? You follow me?
Yeah.
But remember when we say English but not female,
No, I thought all of, wait, hold on. I thought all of English was 7 out of 12.
all of English, those that chose English, is 4 out of 12, right?
Okay.
This in the middle was 2 out of 12, right?
Oh, I just wrote it down wrong. Never mind. Okay.
Am I making sense on that? Cool. Is this making sense, y'all?
Yes.
I just want to make sure because it can get sticky. So I get that.
It's cheeky.
That's the sticky part. So let's do this. Let's go to the next thing, and this is the last thing before the quiz. What is the probability of getting someone that's female or someone that likes English? Now this is the part that you have to get. It's kind of a little bit strange. Catherine?
Is that 9 over 12?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the reason why it would be 9 over 12, let's use the formula.
7 plus 2.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
You gotta count all the females, and then you have to count all the English females, right?
You're exactly right. So if I went over to females, the total females was 5 that don't like English, right? The total both was 2, and then those that just liked English was 2. So in total, if I added all those together, that would be 9 out of 12. Technically, the or is everything that's shaded in the 2 circles.
Oh, so you
Got
just oh, I see.
Good.
Wait, how come you want to do like 7 over 12 plus 4 over 12?
We can, and I'll show you how to do that. Cool? So when we go back, remember the formula-wise. Let's talk about that. Chris, give yourself 2. That was good stuff. So this would be the probability of females plus probability of English minus the probability of females and English. Okay? So if I did this the way that we just had talked about with the formula, the probability of females was 7 over 12, right?
Yeah.
The probability of English was 4 out of 12. But remember, these are not mutually exclusive. If they were, what would this be equal to? 0. Do you remember this? Because there would be no intersection. Y'all follow me? Therefore, where do both kind of coincide? Where do they overlap? Which would be? 2 over 12. So if I did it that way, Jaden, 7 plus 4, 11, minus 2 is 9. It'd be 9 over 12. Cool? Cool. All right, last minute questions before we get started with the quiz here.
What else when you have the Venn diagram
What
on
is the whole quiz?
the quiz?
You will, yes ma'am.
Get to FRQ.
There's 1 FRQ, 8 multiple choice. The FRQ is 25% of it this time, and the multiple choice is 75%.
So what?
Or it's like, it ends up working to 2/3 and 1/3. Anyway,
How much time
that's
do
it. You have 25 minutes. Everyone got done in the last class. I think we'll be cool. Other than that, the only other thing that I would say is if I'm looking at a sample space, okay? And I'm looking at the possibilities of getting a red and black card. When we say sample space, that's all the possibilities within a whatever we're trying to simulate. So what are the possibilities if I draw 2 cards with the different colors that are there?
I'm getting what?
Of, let's just say,
It's mutually exclusive.
actually, let me backtrack. Let me give you something a little bit different. Trying to think of something different that would be good.
No, you pick a 4.
We'll just do exactly what I just said. So if I have 2 different colors, red and black, and I draw any 2 cards, what are the possibilities that I could have?
Pick out 2 cards, play space.
I could have 2 blacks, I could have 2 reds, I could have a red and then a black, and then I also could have a black and then a red. Do you feel that? So I have different possibilities. That's what's called sample space. So all possibilities make up the sample space. That makes sense? In our scenario over here, you could have gotten a female that likes English, you could have gotten a male that likes English, you could have gotten a male that likes math, and a female that likes math, right? That's my sample space.
Would you add? Oh, never mind. That's just like a concept.
That's it. Yeah, it's not like I've got to solve for anything. It's just, hey, what's my sample space? Boom. It's a multiple choice question. I just want to make sure I hit on that before. Jake.
Wait, sorry.
Yeah, so sample space is all the possibilities that we have within a certain simulation or probability. So if I looked at the proportion of individuals who
Shane. You play space, but that's why you
like
figure out,
like math, right, or like English, there's different possibilities. The possibilities in this case, there were 4 of them, right? Males that like English is 1. Males that like math is 1. Females that like math and females that like English. Those 4 are called my sample space.
You play spades?
I love spades.
You play jokers?
I've done both. I like euchre. Euchre, you really like. I think it's
really
even
likes
a little better than spades.
Really?
I do, yeah.
It's like
Hearts is better than both.
It's like Bill West.
I've never played that before.
You never played Hearts? Hearts is better than both.
Really?
I love Hearts.
I do like cards. Whomever, just one person.
You have to choose?
Hey, just make sure you pull your desks away if you could for me, and that way we're there. And then once you're done, put it on the left-hand side. Here we go.
We gotta do both of these? We gotta do both of these?
I think it's wrong.
There's only one.
Once y'all are done, put them on the left-hand side if you would. And then also on the golden nugget, you're going to write this down. You don't have to understand it, but just so that you're ahead of the game when we get started today. Cool. Right on. possibilities, you get points for certain things. Right? So each of these kind of corresponds, each number corresponds to a flip of a coin, right?
Okay.
So you get one head, because if it takes us one toss to get the head, we score 2 points. If it takes 2, then we score 1. And if we flip it twice and get 2 tails, we get no points and start over. Does that make sense? Now, game 2 is if you flip it one time and get heads, you're done. You start over.
No sense.
You want me to explain it? All right, hey, just so you're aware, this is what the situation's talking about. I'm not giving anything in terms of other than just explaining what they're saying, okay? You'll see, obviously, table D that's given to you, right? Each number corresponds to a flip of a coin, okay? Now, here's the thing. Once I get one head, I'm done with the game. Does that make sense? For that round. So I'm done. Now, if I flip once and I get heads the first time, I get 2 points. Got me? If I flip tails and then a heads on the second time, I get 1 point. Got me? And if I flip it twice and get 2 tails, I get 0 points and I start over. Okay? Now let me make sure I explain this. If I flip it the first time and get heads, I start up. Once I get heads, I'm done. Or if I flip it and get 2 tails, I start again at that point as well. Am I making sense on that?
Start again at that point.
You would start again at that point. Mm-hmm.
At the flip 2 tails.
2 tails, or once you got, if you did it on the first one, you got a heads on the first one, you would start over after that. Does that make sense? That's what we're doing. The second pitch. So the next one, if I got the heads the first time, give yourself whatever the points are. And then the second one would then end up being the new game. Does that make sense, Lindsay? You're flipping it twice every time, right? Except when you get hit for the first time. Does that make sense?
me on that. So you're thinking on the right train, so just repeated that. They're both right counted twice. That's why you gotta be careful when you go.
Okay, I see. Makes sense.
make sense? Does that make sense? Y'all that are finishing up have about 5 minutes left, okay? Just as a heads up there. About 5 minutes.
Well, now I do. Before, I would just wait.
Do you have any suggestions on how to do that?
It's like 45.
Oh, with the A and B part, you're saying? On the whole
You
year?
know, like,
Per night? Or per day?
We need
She's just. I wanna make it better. I know that I cut out a lot from what we did last year. Believe it or not. But I know that, I'm just trying to just get y'all's opinion, because here's the deal. It's an AP class, so it's gonna have to be, it's just gonna be a lot.
With eights, we didn't have any homework though. With eights, we just had to read.
That's the big thing. It's a little different. It's because it's problem based, so you have to get kind of the reps that are in there. So I can't go to that model, but just trying to make it better. So try to make it better. So I'll keep working for that.
midnight. Cool. You'll have about 1 more minute left. Okay. All right. If you could do this for me, take back out your notes just real quick. Before we get into the swing of it there, I want you to understand, especially with Chapter 5, it's easy to get a little discouraged with Chapter 5. I would say just understand it's a process. Next week, my game plan, we'll do 5.3 A. We'll finish up on Monday with 5.3 B. We'll review Tuesday, and then we'll review before the test on block day as well, okay? So we've got kind of 2 different review times plus the night study session. So I know that this is going to just be something that's going to take a little bit. So keep buying into that and rock and roll. 5.3 is due on Tuesday at midnight, I believe. So just as a heads up, just as you're getting rolling there, just something to keep in the back of your mind there. Cool. Hey, before we go any further, I wanted to do a quick character development. The guy that you see here, I don't want to play the video just for sake of time, but he wrote this book called Love Does, and it's talking about how can you be secretly incredible. This guy's phenomenal. He's one of my favorite authors, and he talked about a situation where, and he's done a lot of these situations, but on one instance, he spoke at a specific convention, and when he went to the convention, he got picked up in a limo. The place that was kind of allowing him to speak picked him up in a limo. And he went up to the limo driver and he said, hey, well, kind of got to know. And when they talked, he found out that the guy was retiring in about a week. So he said, hey, congratulations. Must feel really good not to have to work that long. And so Bob Goff, the guy that you see behind me, said, hey, just curious, have you ever rode it in a limo before? And he goes, no, I've always just driven it. It's just my job. I've never ridden in one. And Bob Goff, just on the whim, says, how would I drive you? And now, again, this guy has no experience driving the limo at all. And the guy says, no, I can't do that. I can't just give you the keys and have you drive. And Bob Goff said, well, why not? You're about ready to retire. Who cares? And the limo driver finally said, yeah, okay, let's do this. So they switched positions. So this guy literally puts on the limo hat, opens up the door, chauffeurs the guy in, and ends up driving him the hour and a half that he had to drive to his speaking engagement and went from there. Now, my question is do you think that limo driver would ever forget what had happened in that moment? Probably not, right? Probably not. And he talks about stories about what does it mean to be secretly incredible and talking about doing things for people without making a huge hoopla, but just making that an identity about who you are. Today we're going to be secretly incredible. Okay, cool. That sounds weird a little bit, but kind of go with me where we're going to go. I want us to write just an encouraging note to someone that's outside of this room. So anyone inside this room is we don't want that. We want it outside this room. I want you to write a letter to that individual, just either identifying and thanking them for the work that they've done, or maybe it's just an encouraging note to them to lift them up. Someone else had the idea of, in the last class, wrote a note to Hector. If you don't know Hector, he's the one that smiles all the time. And you know who Hector is if I say that. So I just want you, and it doesn't have to be elaborate, but just taking a couple of minutes and putting that down. Since this is an identity of being secretly incredible, I'm going to ask you not to put your name, although if you really want to, you could do that. And then on the front, once you fold it up, after the note, fold it up, put the name of the person, and I'll hand those out to individuals and give those to them. Sound good? Does that sound cool? All right, let's do it. And then we'll get right straight into part 2 of what we were talking about today. If it's a student, just because it's hard sometimes to connect, if you could, maybe you give it to them, unless it's someone in my class. In that case, I can help you with that part. Cool? Gotcha. And 1, 2, and 3. Go ahead. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Just something really quick. And just to thank those individuals maybe, or just to give a word of encouragement to someone today. Once you're done with that, if you have not done so, make sure you get down the golden nugget that's here behind me. And that way you've got it down, and we'll build on this idea of what we were talking about earlier. Is this weird for y'all? Maybe. A little bit. That's fair.
Wait, so if we hand it to them, won't they know?
I can hand them out to people.
Like
Don't-
to a teacher.
to the teachers or faculty or staff or anyone like that, I can definitely do that. And usually I'll put them in the boxes, and that makes it kind of a little bit better. But I'll just put it right over there in those boxes and rock and roll.
Like a student, I meant.
While you're doing this, I kind of got this idea for the character development. I was going through some of my stuff and just seeing some of the notes that I've kept for years and years and years from just different people, and just identifying the impact that something like this could have on someone. It's pretty remarkable, and you'll be surprised at the things people keep that are really encouraging. Maybe it's at the perfect moment, and so that's all we're wanting to do here. If you've never done this before, maybe you think it's weird. I apologize for that. But I know that this could have a profound impact on someone in a positive way. Cool. When you're done, if you could, let's put them right here on this stool here. And just make sure you fold them up and put the name of the individual that you're writing it to. And again, I'll bring those and send those out. And we'll go from there. Cool beans. It's a good one, Chris. All right, as you're writing, and again, you could put it on that stool. Hey, let's quickly talk about one concept that, if I were to remember last year, probably in the top 3, this would probably be definitely up there in terms of concepts that I wish I could have redone. And so we're hopefully going to approach this a little differently, but I will say that this is a concept you really want to dial into. So it's real quick, just as an example, the idea of mutually exclusive and independence, the difference between them, okay? Can someone just kind of use cards to identify 2 mutually exclusive events? So we're talking about cards, 52 card deck. What would be a mutually exclusive event? Sarah?
Like just you can only get one.
Where they wouldn't be able to occur together. Does that make sense? So let's say we pick 2 different types of cards here, 2, maybe not cards, but the suits or whatever. What would be mutually exclusive event that would occur or could occur here?
So you're going to?
We'll just say we're drawing one.
You can't draw black and red cards.
Black and red. Good. Give yourself 2 on that, Shane. Nice. And what would another one be? JD?
For the hearts.
Yes.
Like the type of cards that you can't draw to wait.
That's okay. You're good. Lindsay?
You can't draw king and ace.
King and ace, right? You can't draw both of them at the same time, right? They're mutually exclusive.
Why not?
So if I drew we're talking one card, right? If I were to draw one card, I either can get a king or an ace. There's- Yo, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my fault. So only drawing one, you can either get either a king or an ace. Someone give me something that's not mutually exclusive or not disjoint. Same thing. Chris?
A red and a diamond.
A red and a diamond's perfect right there. In those situations, those are not mutually exclusive. There's some overlap. Good. Someone give me another one. Ronald? 7 of hearts is a good one too. Very good. That would be another example. Good. Give yourself 2, y'all. Nicely done. So today we're going to talk about the second one, which is independence. Someone help me with what independence is. We kind of talked about it just a little bit. Alex, I think I saw you.
When it's not relying on something else.
Good, it's not relying upon something else. What happens on the next one is not dependent upon what happened previously. We talked about free throws. That would be 2, by the way. Free throws, flipping a coin, any of those things are what we would call independent, okay? Dependence is the opposite. Meaning, if I'm given something, if I say that this occurs, it will affect the probability that is there. When we have that occur, we have this thing called given. I want you to write this on the outside and put conditional probability. There's a condition that is put on our situation here, okay? Chris, can make sure we're here, okay, my man? All right, so what is the probability that a student prefers English? So the probability a student prefers English, given, the way we write that is a line that goes straight up and down, given that they are female, okay? We're going to talk about how to find that in a second. Number 5, what is the probability that a student prefers English, given that they are male? So we're going to look at the 2 possibilities when we talk about conditional probability. Now, when we go backwards, we kind of did it already today because we looked at this and said, okay, what is the probability they like English given that they're female? If it's given that they are female, we're focused on the female side, right? All right, right there. What is the probability that given that they're female, that they like English? John Michael?
2 out of 7.
2 out of 7. Excellent. Okay, that would be the probability there. Good. Give yourself 2. Shane, what would be given that they are male? What is the probability they like English?
2 over 5.
2 over 5. Good. So we're going to write that down here. So we're going to say the females was what again? Is it 4 out of 7? 2 out of 7. And then this one would be 2 out of 5. Good. Okay, so question. The number 6 is really key. Are the events female and prefers English independent? What does that mean? Given that they are female, would that affect the fact that they would choose English?
No.
Well, let's look and see. Look at the probabilities, right? Given that they were male, what is the probability that they would choose English? That was 2 out of 5, right? Given that they are female, what is the probability that they would choose English? 2 out of 7. Are these equal?
No.
These are not equal. Therefore, are these 2 things independent? They are not independent, okay? Because given that they are female or male would change whether they chose English or not, as far as our class is concerned, okay? Now, if they were independent, you would expect these 2 things to be the same. And we'll keep talking about this more as we go. So we're going to say no. If we know the person is female, would they have, if we know the person is female, do we have a higher or lower probability of them being liking English? We have a lower, good, a lower probability of them preferring English, okay? Is there any questions on why that's the case? Chris, go ahead, man.
just because someone's a female doesn't mean they're gonna pick English.
100%.
So how does that make that independent? How does that make that not independent?
What we're saying is that we're talking about the two different categories is whether they're male or female, right? Given that someone is either a male or female, would that change whether they would prefer English or not?
No.
Why? Why would you say that?
Because it makes sense.
Explain. I'm trying to think where you're going because I like your thought process. I'm just trying to follow through.
If I'm a male,
Mhm.
I can choose English. I can choose math.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Correct, 100%. What I'm saying is because you're a male, am I making sense? Because you're a male or female, does that change the probability of you liking English or not? Yes, Chris, what Chris is saying is right. You have the choice of either going to English or math depending on what you like. But I'm just saying overall, these two things are dependent, not independent.
So meaning
So
they
it's
don't.
a higher chance.
Go ahead, Brianna, and then I'll go to Chris. Go
So
ahead.
meaning like they're not directly, like they won't change each other. So like if you're female, it's not, that won't mean that you like English. Or is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that like because you're female, it's more probable that you would like English? Or they're
Less
dependent.
Yeah, in this case, it's less probable. Got me? What I'm saying is that these two probabilities are not the same.
So if you did another experiment and the numbers are different, wouldn't that prove this wrong?
If the numbers are different, right? If they reverse. In fact, in the other class it did, Chris. I don't know if it was exactly reversed, but it was close. The fact that each of them were different, what we're saying is that whether you are a male or female would change the probability of you liking English or math in that context. Am I making sense? Whereas in a free throw, right? Think about a free throw.
Therefore, it'll be independent because it's going to change class to class.
No, dependent because it doesn't correlate. Like I don't think I'm using a good word. Like, it doesn't correlate, right? Meaning it wouldn't like be. It is. What does dependent mean?
Dependent means that what happens, what is given, right? The fact that you are a male or female, does that change the probability of you liking English?
No. Or are you saying it does?
It does because the probabilities are different.
Oh, I see.
You see what I'm saying? Chris, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm hearing what you're This is just in the context of this class. I am not saying, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm not saying for all of the world, right? But what I'm saying is for the context of this class, the 12 people that are in this room. If I chose someone at random, given that they're female, would that change the probability of it being English? Or given the fact that they're male, would that change the probability of it being English? In our context, it does change. So we would say that this would be dependent. Got me? Whereas independence, if I shoot 10 free throws, right, my probability of hitting my first free throw is my free throw percentage. 80